The bell above the door chimed softly as Rajan looked up from his workbench. A woman stood in the doorway of his small repair shop. Her armor was completely destroyed. Burn marks covered the chest plate. The left arm section hung loose. Deep scratches ran across the helmet she carried under her arm. Rajan wiped his hands on his work cloth and walked over to greet her. He had run this repair shop on the frontier mining colony for 3 years now. He had seen plenty of damaged equipment. But this armor looked like it had been through a war. The woman was tall and lean. Her dark hair was pulled back tight. Her face showed exhaustion, but her eyes were sharp and alert. She moved with the careful precision of someone who had spent years in combat. "Can you fix this?" she asked quietly. Her voice was rough, like she had not slept in days. Rajan examined the armor more closely. Most of it was standard military-grade equipment, but something felt different about it. The metal had an unusual shimmer. The connection points were more advanced than anything he usually worked on. "I can fix most things," Rajan said honestly, "but this might take a few days. The damage is pretty severe." "What happened out there?" The woman hesitated for just a moment. "Rough mission. Things went wrong." "Can you do it or not?" Rajan nodded slowly. "Yeah, I can do it. It will cost about 2,000 credits for parts and labor. I can set up a payment plan if you need time." To his surprise, the woman pulled out a credit chip immediately. "Here is 3,000. Fix it properly. Take your time and do it right." Rajan blinked in surprise. Most soldiers he worked with barely had enough money for basic repairs. "The extra 1,000 is not necessary. I always do proper work." "Keep it," the woman said firmly. "Good work deserves good pay." "When can you have it ready?" "For days," Rajan said. "Maybe 5 if I find more damage when I open it up." The woman nodded and turned to leave. Then she paused at the door. "My name is Lysa. I will be staying at the Colony Hotel. Call me when it is done." "I am Rajan. I will take good care of your armor." Lysa looked back at him with an expression he could not quite read. "I believe you will," and she was gone. Rajan carried the armor to his main workstation. He laid out each piece carefully. As he began the inspection, his experienced eyes caught details that made him pause. This was not just military-grade armor. This was something far more advanced. The metal was a hybrid of human and alien materials. Someone had combined them in ways Rajan had only read about in technical journals. The power distribution system was incredibly efficient. The defensive plating used a layering technique he had never seen before. Whoever wore this armor was important. Very important. But Rajan pushed those thoughts aside. Every piece of equipment that came through his door got the same treatment. It did not matter if it belonged to a private or a general. Good work was good work. He started with the structural damage. The burns had melted through several layers of plating. Rajan carefully removed the damaged sections. He measured everything twice. Then he began fabricating replacement parts. While he worked, he talked to the armor. It was an old habit. "You have been through a lot, haven't you? Whoever hit you, hit hard. But we will get you fixed up. Get you back in fighting shape." The door chimed again. Lysa walked back in. She looked slightly embarrassed. "I forgot to mention, if you find any data chips or recording devices in there, remove them and give them to me. Security protocols." "No problem," Rajan said without looking up from his work. "I always return personal items to owners." Lysa did not leave. Instead, she moved closer to watch him work. "You talked to the equipment." Rajan felt his face warm with embarrassment. "Old habit. Probably sounds crazy." "No," Lysa said softly. "It sounds like you care about what you do." For the next hour, Lysa watched him work in silence. Rajan found himself explaining what he was doing. Most customers got bored and left. But Lysa asked intelligent questions. She understood the technical aspects better than most military engineers he had worked with. "Why did you reinforce that connection point?" she asked. "It was not damaged." Rajan pointed to tiny stress marks in the metal. "See these microfractures? They are small now. But under combat stress, they will spread. The whole section could fail at the worst moment. Better to reinforce it now." Lysa leaned closer. I never noticed those. Most repair techs would have missed them too. Most repair techs are trying to work fast and move on to the next job, Rajan said. He carefully welded the reinforcement in place. I prefer to work right. Equipment keeps soldiers alive. If I cut corners, someone might die because of my laziness. I can't live with that. Something changed in Lysa's expression. Her walls came down just slightly. You sound like you have military experience. Rajan's hands paused for just a second. Then he continued working. I was a military engineer. Long time ago? Different life. What made you leave? The question hung in the air. Rajan finished the weld before answering. I lost my entire unit. Equipment failure during a critical mission? The gear was not maintained properly. I was responsible for checking it. I missed something. 23 people died. Lysa was quiet for a long moment. And now you run a repair shop on a frontier colony. Now I make sure no one else dies because someone did not care enough to do the job right, Rajan said simply. Every piece of equipment that comes through that door might save a life. I treat it that way. Lysa watched him work for another few minutes. Then she spoke again. Her voice was softer than before. You are a good man, Rajan. The kind the military needs more of. The military has enough people, Rajan said. I serve better here. Lysa left after that, but she came back the next day. And the day after, each time she watched him work. Each time they talked a little more. By the fourth day, the armor was ready. Rajan had gone beyond the basic repairs. He had upgraded the power distribution. He had reinforced every weak point. He had balanced the weight distribution for better mobility. The armor was better than new. When Lysa came to pick it up, she ran her hands over the smooth plating. She put it on piece by piece. Then she moved through a series of combat forms. The armor responded perfectly to every movement. She turned to face Rajan. Her eyes were bright with something that looked like gratitude. This is incredible. I have never had armor that felt this good. How much do I owe you for the extra work? Nothing extra, Rajan said. That was included in the original price. I told you I do proper work. Lysa looked at him for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She reached out and shook his hand firmly. Thank you, Rajan. Truly, you have a gift. Never stop using it. She left without another word. Rajan watched her go. He felt good about the work. He always did. But something about this job felt different. He had no idea that he had just worked on the armor of the most important military officer in all of human space. He had no idea that his life was about to change forever. Part 2. The return 3 days passed quietly. Rajan worked on other projects. A mining exosuit that needed new hydraulics. A damaged cargo loader. The usual work that kept his shop running. He thought about Lysa sometimes. Wondered what kind of mission had damaged her armor so badly. Then on the fourth day, the bell chimed. Lysa walked in with 2 other soldiers. Both wore armor similar to hers. Both showed signs of heavy combat damage. The first soldier was a broad-shouldered man with a scarred face. The second was a younger woman with alert eyes that scanned everything. They moved like professional fighters. Every step calculated. Every movement efficient, Rajan Lysa said with a slight smile. I brought some friends who need your help. The male soldier stepped forward. He stood very straight, very formal. Sir, the commander speaks highly of your work. Our armor took damage in the same engagement. Can you repair it? Rajan noticed the way the soldier said commander. There was deep respect in his tone. Almost reverence. I can take a look. Let me see what we are working with. Both soldiers removed their armor carefully. The damage was extensive. Burn marks. Impact craters. One suit had a completely shattered shoulder plate. Rajan examined everything with his practiced eye. This will take about a week for both suits, he said honestly. The shoulder plate needs to be completely rebuilt. That is delicate work. The female soldier glanced at Lysa before speaking. We trust your judgment, sir. The commander says you are the best mechanic she has ever worked with. Rajan felt embarrassed by the praise. I just do thorough work. Nothing special. Thorough work is special, Lysa said quietly. She was watching him with that same intense look from before. Most people do just enough to get by. You do more. The soldiers paid up front, just like Lysa had. They were generous with their credits. Then they turned to leave. But Lysa lingered behind as her companions waited outside. "Can we talk?" she asked. "Just for a few minutes." Rajan nodded and led her to the small office in the back of his shop. It was cluttered with parts, manuals, and technical diagrams. Lysa sat down in the worn chair across from his desk. For a moment, she looked tired. Deeply tired. "Those two soldiers out there are part of my unit," Lysa said. "We are stationed in the outer territories, fighting the Kresh." Rajan knew about the Kresh, hostile aliens that had been attacking human colonies for the past 5 years. The war was brutal. Lots of casualties on both sides. "The mission that damaged our armor was an ambush," Lysa continued. Her voice was flat, controlled. "We lost 15 soldiers. Good people. People I trained. People I was responsible for." Rajan understood that kind of pain. He had carried it for years. "I am sorry for your loss." "I should have been better prepared," Lysa said. She was not looking at him anymore. She was staring at her hands. "I should have anticipated their tactics. Should have positioned our forces differently. Those 15 deaths are on me." "Can't think like that," Rajan said gently. "In combat, things go wrong. The enemy gets a say in what happens. You can do everything right and still lose people." Lysa looked up at him. Her eyes were hard. "You lost your unit because of equipment failure. Don't you blame yourself?" The question hit like a punch. Rajan took a slow breath. "Every single day. But I learned something from carrying that guilt. It does not bring them back. It does not honor them. What honors them is making sure I never make that mistake again." "So you hide out here fixing armor for strangers," Lysa said. There was no judgment in her voice. Just observation. "I am not hiding," Rajan said firmly. "I am doing what I am good at. Every soldier who walks out of here with properly maintained equipment has a better chance of going home alive. That matters. That is how I serve now." Lysa was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "You are right. I am sorry. I did not mean to suggest your work here is not important. It is. More than you probably realize." They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Then Lysa spoke again. "My unit operates in dangerous territory. We need reliable equipment. Would you consider taking contract work? Coming to our forward base a few times a year? Teaching our mechanics your techniques?" Rajan felt something twist in his chest. The idea of going back to military bases? Being around soldiers again. Taking on that kind of responsibility. "I appreciate the offer," he said carefully. "But I prefer my quiet shop. No offense to you or your people. I just work better alone." Lysa studied his face. She seemed to understand what he was really saying. "No offense taken. But the offer stands. If you change your mind, contact me through military channels. Ask for Commander Korvathi." She stood to leave. Rajan walked her to the door. Her 2 soldiers were waiting outside. They snapped to attention when she appeared, not the casual attention of regular military. "This was something more, Commander," the male soldier said. "The transport is ready when you are." "Thank you, Marcus," Lysa said. Then she turned back to Rajan one more time. "Take care of yourself. The galaxy needs more people like you." Rajan watched them walk away. Commander Korvathi. The name felt familiar somehow, like he should know it, but he could not place it. Over the next week, Rajan worked on the 2 suits of armor. He found himself thinking about Lysa's offer. Part of him wanted to help, wanted to teach others to care about their work the way he did. But a larger part was afraid of failing again, afraid of being responsible for lives on that scale. So he focused on the work in front of him. He rebuilt the shoulder plate from scratch. He reinforced weak points. He upgraded power systems. When he finished, both suits were in perfect condition. The 2 soldiers came to pick up their armor exactly 1 week later. The woman tried it on immediately. She moved through combat forms. tested every joint and connection. "This is amazing," she said with genuine surprise. "It feels brand new." "Better than new, actually." The male soldier Marcus examined his suit carefully. "The commander was right about you." "This is master-level work, just doing my job," Rajan said. Marcus looked at him seriously. "No, sir. This is far beyond just doing a job. This is craftsmanship. This is care. The commander sees that. We all see it." They paid him well and left. Rajan returned to his quiet shop, his quiet life. But something had changed. Lysa and her soldiers had reminded him of something he had tried to forget. There was honor in serving, even if it meant risking failure again, even if it meant facing his fears. He just was not ready yet. Maybe someday. But not today. Rajan had no idea that someday would come much sooner than he expected. He had no idea that the quiet life he had built was about to be shattered, and he definitely had no idea who Commander Korvathi really was. Part 3. The emergency. 1 week later, Rajan was closing his shop for the evening. The colony's twin suns were setting. Orange light streamed through the windows. It had been a good day, productive and quiet. Then he heard the sound, a deep rumbling that shook the ground. Emergency shuttles. Multiple ones, coming in fast and hard. Rajan stepped outside. Other colonists were gathering in the streets. Everyone looked worried. Emergency shuttles only came for 2 reasons: evacuations or casualties. The first shuttle landed in the central plaza. Its doors opened before it fully touched down. Soldiers poured out. They were wounded. Some limped. Some were carried by others. Their armor was destroyed, sparking, smoking, barely holding together. More shuttles landed. Each one carried more wounded soldiers. Dozens of them. Maybe 100. Medical teams rushed forward, but they were quickly overwhelmed. Then Rajan saw her. Lysa jumped down from one of the shuttles. She was carrying a wounded soldier over her shoulders. Her armor was in terrible condition. The chest plate had a massive crack. The left leg section was missing completely. Sparks flew from exposed wiring, but she kept moving. She carried the wounded soldier to the medical area. Then she went back for another. And another. She did not stop, even though her armor was failing. Rajan ran toward the landing zone. He pushed through the crowd. A young soldier was sitting on the ground. His medical exosuit was beeping error warnings. The life support system was shutting down. "The suit is dying," the soldier gasped. His face was pale. "I can't breathe right without it." Rajan dropped to his knees. "Let me see." His hands moved quickly over the controls. The power regulator was fried. He pulled out his multi-tool. "Hold still. I can bypass this." He worked fast. Crossed to connections. Rerouted power from a secondary cell. The medical suit hummed back to life. The soldier's breathing eased immediately. "Thank you," the soldier whispered. "Thank you so much." But Rajan was already moving to the next soldier. And the next? Everywhere he looked, equipment was failing. Medical suits. Defensive systems. Basic armor functions. Soldiers were dying because their gear could not keep them alive. He found Lysa in the center of the chaos. She was coordinating medical teams, directing supplies. Her voice was calm but firm, even though she looked ready to collapse. "Lysa," Rajan called out. She turned. Relief flashed across her face when she saw him. Rajan thanked the stars. "I need your help desperately." "What happened?" "Major Krish offensive. We held them off, but barely. Got our people out, but the equipment is destroyed. Military supply lines are cut. Official repair facilities are 3 days away." Her voice cracked slightly. "People are dying because their medical gear is failing. I don't know what to do." Rajan looked around at the chaos. At the wounded soldiers, at the failing equipment. This was exactly what he had been afraid of. Taking on responsibility this big. But these people needed help right now. "Get me every mechanic in this colony," Rajan said. "Every engineer. Anyone who knows how to work with tools. I need them in the central workshop in 10 minutes. Lysa did not question him. She started giving orders immediately. Within minutes, 20 local workers gathered in the colony's main workshop. Most looked nervous, uncertain. Rajan stood in front of them. Listen carefully. We have about 100 wounded soldiers. Half of them will die if their equipment fails. We are going to save them. I am going to teach you what to do. Follow my instructions exactly. Ask questions if you are unsure. Do not guess. Do not rush. Lives depend on precision. Understand? Everyone nodded. Fear and determination mixed on their faces. Good. Let us get to work. Rajan organized everything like a military operation. He divided people into teams. Medical equipment got priority 1. Defensive systems priority 2. Everything else, priority 3. He moved between teams teaching his techniques, showing them how to bypass damaged systems. How to recognize critical failures before they happened. Lysa worked beside him the entire time. She followed his instructions without question. Learned his methods quickly. Her hands were steady even though exhaustion showed in every movement. Hand me that power cell, Rajan said. They were working on a critical medical suit. The soldier wearing it had severe internal injuries. The suit was keeping him alive, but barely. Lysa passed him the cell. You are good at this. Teaching, I mean. People trust you. I just explained things clearly, Rajan said. He connected the new cell carefully. There, that should hold. The medical suit's warnings stopped. The soldier's vital signs stabilized. One more life saved. They worked for 48 hours straight. No sleep, barely any food. Just constant repairs. Rajan's hands cramped. His eyes burned. But he kept going. Everyone kept going. During a brief rest, Lysa sat down next to him. She had finally removed her destroyed armor. Underneath, she wore a simple combat uniform. It was torn and stained. I have been a soldier for 20 years, she said quietly. Fought in dozens of battles. Worked with hundreds of support personnel, but I have never seen a civilian understand soldiers the way you do. Rajan wiped grease from his hands. I understand because I failed them once. I won't fail again. Can't fail again. That guilt drives you, Lysa observed. But it also limits you. You could do so much more than run a repair shop. Right now, I am doing exactly what needs to be done, Rajan said. That is enough. Lysa smiled slightly. A tired but genuine smile. Yes, you are. By the end of the second day, every piece of critical equipment was functional. Medical suits stable. Defensive systems operational. Not a single soldier died from equipment failure. The wounded were stable enough to be transported to proper medical facilities. Supply ships were finally breaking through. The crisis was over. Rajan stood in the workshop surrounded by exhausted but happy workers. They had done something incredible together. Saved lives through skill and determination and care. Lysa approached him. She looked like she wanted to say something important. The colony is holding a small gathering tonight. To thank the soldiers before we leave, will you come? I am not really a gatherings type of person, Rajan said. Please, Lysa said. Her tone made it clear this mattered. I want to thank you properly. In front of everyone? Rajan hesitated, then nodded. All right, I will be there. He had no idea what was about to happen. He had no idea that his quiet, anonymous life was about to end, and he definitely had no idea that he was about to discover who Lysa really was. Part 4. The revelation. The gathering was held in the colony's main hall. Colonists and soldiers mixed together. The atmosphere was warm, grateful. People who had faced death together and survived. Rajan stood near the back. He wore clean clothes for the first time in 2 days. His hands still ached from constant work, but it was a good ache. The ache of meaningful labor. Lysa stood at the front with her soldiers. She had found a clean uniform somewhere. She looked more rested than before, more like the composed commander he had first met. But there was something different about her tonight, a formality that had not been there before. The colony administrator gave a short speech. thanked the soldiers for their service, thanked the local workers for their help. Then he invited Lysa to speak. She stepped forward. Every soldier in the room snapped to attention. Not the casual attention Rajan had seen before. This was rigid, precise, absolute. Something cold touched the back of Rajan's neck. This was not normal military protocol. This was something else. "Thank you all for your hospitality," Lysa began. Her voice carried clearly through the hall. "Your colony showed incredible courage during this crisis. You opened your homes, shared your resources, worked beside us to save lives." Her eyes found Rajan in the crowd. "But there is one person I need to thank specifically. Rajan Kumar, please come forward." Rajan's stomach dropped. He hated public attention. But people were looking at him now, waiting. He walked to the front slowly. Awkwardly, he stood next to Lysa, feeling completely out of place. "This man," Lysa said, "organized an emergency repair operation that saved dozens of lives. He worked for 48 hours without rest. He taught others his skills. He showed compassion and expertise in equal measure." She turned to face him directly. "Rajan, you embody the best qualities of humanity. Your dedication, your care, your refusal to give up on anyone. You are extraordinary." Rajan felt his face burning. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," Lysa said firmly. "You did what very few would do. You did it perfectly. And because of you, every soldier in this room is going home alive." She took a breath. "I am recommending you for the Stellar Cross of Merit, one of the highest civilian honors in human space." The room erupted in applause. Rajan stood frozen. The Stellar Cross of Merit, that was serious. That came directly from the top of military command, from people he would never meet. Then one of Lisa's soldiers stepped forward. Marcus, the scarred man, whose armor Rajan had repaired weeks ago. He raised his voice to address the crowd. "Most of you do not know who is standing in front of you," Marcus said. "You have been hosting someone very important. Someone whose presence here is extraordinary." Rajan felt confused. Was Marcus talking about him? That made no sense. "The woman you know as Commander Lysa Korvathi," Marcus continued, "is not just a commander. She is Grand Admiral Lysa Korvathi, Supreme Commander of the entire human defense fleet. She personally commands all military forces across 40 star systems." The room went absolutely silent. Rajan's mind went blank. Grand Admiral. Supreme Commander. Those were titles he had only heard in news broadcasts. Those were people who shaped the course of human civilization. "Grand Admiral Korvathi," Marcus said with pride in his voice, "is the most decorated military officer in human history. She led the defense during the First Contact War. She saved Earth itself from the initial Kresh invasion. She has commanded more successful operations than any officer in the past century." Rajan turned to look at Lysa. Really look at her. She stood calmly. Watching him, there was no apology in her eyes. Just patience. "She came to this colony personally," Marcus continued, "because intelligence suggested a major Kresh offensive was imminent. She wanted to evacuate civilians herself, not delegate it to subordinates. That is who she is. That is how she leads." One by one, the soldiers in the room dropped to one knee. It was a formal salute, a sign of absolute respect reserved for the highest military authority. The colonists looked at each other uncertainly. Then they followed. Everyone in the room kneeling, except Rajan and Lysa. Rajan stood there feeling like the universe had tilted sideways. The woman he had casually talked to in his shop, the woman he had given repair advice to, the woman he had worked beside for 2 days straight, she was the Grand Admiral, the living legend, the person who commanded millions of soldiers, and he had treated her like any other customer. "Please stand," Lysa said to the crowd. Her voice had shifted. It carried authority now. Command presence. Everyone rose immediately. She turned to Rajan. "I apologize for not revealing my identity earlier, but it was refreshing to be treated as just another soldier. No ceremony. No special treatment. Just honest respect." Rajan finally found his voice. "I had no idea. I mean, obviously I had no idea. You were just... I thought you were, regular Commander, Lysa finished gently. I know. That is why our conversations were so valuable. You gave me honest advice. You treated me like a person, not like a rank or a title. The colony administrator looked like he might faint. Grand Admiral, we had no idea. If we had known, we would have prepared proper accommodations. Formal welcomes. Lysa raised a hand. Your accommodations were perfect. Your welcome was genuine. I prefer it this way. She looked back at Rajan. And I meant every word I said. Your work saved lives. Your expertise is remarkable. The stellar cross-recommendation stands. Rojan's mind was still trying to process everything. You came to my shop on purpose. You knew about me? Intelligence reports mentioned an exceptional mechanic on this colony, Lysa admitted. Someone who cared deeply about proper maintenance. I wanted to see for myself. What I found exceeded all expectations. The gathering continued, but Rajan barely registered it. People came up to thank him, to congratulate him. He responded automatically. His thoughts were spinning. He had been casually chatting with the Supreme Commander of humanity's military. He had told her she was wrong about carrying guilt. He had lectured her about proper work ethics. He had treated the most powerful military officer in human space like an apprentice, and apparently she had appreciated it. After an hour, Lysa found him standing alone outside the hall. He was staring up at the stars, trying to make sense of everything. Are you angry? She asked quietly. No, Rajan said honestly. Just overwhelmed and confused. Why'd you really come here? The truth, this time. Lysa stood beside him. Everything I told you was true. We were evacuating civilians. The offensive was real. But yes, I specifically sought out your shop. I wanted to meet the mechanic who supposedly treated equipment like it had a soul. And I found exactly what I hoped to find, Lysa said. Someone who understands that details matter, that care matters, that every life is worth protecting. She paused. Someone who could teach those values to others. Rajan felt that cold touch again. This is about your contract offer, isn't it? Yes, Lysa said simply. But we can discuss that tomorrow. Tonight, just accept that you did something incredible. You saved lives. That matters more than any rank or title. She walked back inside, leaving Rajan alone with his thoughts. Above him, the stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere out there, humanity was fighting for survival. And somehow he had ended up at the center of something much bigger than his quiet. Shop. He had no idea that his answer tomorrow would change everything. He had no idea that running away from responsibility was no longer an option. Part 5. The choice. Rajan could not sleep that night. He kept thinking about everything. About Lysa. About who she really was. About the offer she had made. His mind would not stop spinning. At dawn, he gave up trying to rest. He went to his workshop instead. Work always helped him think clearly. He started organizing tools, cleaning workbenches, simple tasks that required no thought. The door opened an hour later. Lysa walked in alone. No armor this time. Just a simple uniform. She looked more human without all the military gear, more like the tired soldier he had first met. I thought I might find you here, she said. Can we talk? Really talk this time? Rajan nodded. They sat in his small office. The same place they had talked weeks ago. But everything felt different now. I owe you a full explanation, Lysa began. About why I came here. About what I am really asking. She leaned forward. The Kresh War is not going well. We are holding the line, but barely. We lose good soldiers every day. Not always because the enemy is stronger. Sometimes because equipment fails at critical moments, because mechanics rush their work, because maintenance is treated as an afterthought. Rajan listened without interrupting. I have visited dozens of military repair facilities, Lysa continued. Inspected hundreds of workshops. Most mechanics see their job as just fixing broken things. Get it working. Move to the next task. They do not understand that their work determines if soldiers live or die. She looked directly at him. But you understand. You treat every piece of equipment like it matters. Like the person wearing it matters. That is just basic professionalism, Rajan said quietly. No, it is not, Lysa said firmly. If it was basic, everyone would do it. But they do not. Most people do the minimum required. You do more. You care more. And that difference saves lives. She stood and walked to the window. Morning light outlined her silhouette. I am not asking you to fight. I am not asking you to go into combat zones. I am asking you to teach. To share your philosophy with military mechanics across the fleet. To show them that their work is just as important as what soldiers do on the battlefield. I am just one person, Rajan said. How much difference can I really make? If you teach 100 mechanics your methods, and each of them maintains equipment for 100 soldiers, then you have protected 10,000 lives, Lysa said. If those mechanics teach others, then the impact multiplies. One person with the right knowledge and the right attitude can change entire systems. Rajan felt the weight of that, the responsibility. And if I fail, if I cannot teach them properly, if people die because I missed something? Lysa turned to face him. Her expression was understanding, compassionate. You are afraid of failing again, of carrying more guilt. I understand that fear intimately. How do you deal with it? Rajan asked. How do you command millions of soldiers knowing your decisions determine who lives and dies? Lysa sat back down. For a moment she looked vulnerable, human. Every decision costs lives. Every battle has casualties. I have made mistakes that killed good people. I carry those names with me always. And she paused. But I learned something. Doing nothing also costs lives. Refusing to act because I am afraid of making mistakes would kill more people than any decision I could make. That is different, Rajal said. You are trained for command. You have experience. I am just a mechanic who made one terrible mistake years ago. You are a young military engineer who missed something in a high-stress situation, Lysa corrected. That does not define your entire life. Look at what you've done since then. Look at how many people you have kept safe with your work. Rajan wanted to argue, to list all the reasons he was not qualified. But the words would not come. Lysa stood again. This time she did something that shocked him. She dropped to one knee in front of his chair. A Grand Admiral, the supreme commander of humanity's military, kneeling before a civilian mechanic? What are you doing? Rajan asked in horror. You should not. This is not. Humanity does not just need warriors, Lysa said. Her voice was steady, formal. We need people who understand that caring for small details saves the most lives. We need people who treat every task as sacred, every piece of equipment as important, every life as worth protecting. She looked up at him. We need you, Rajan Kumar. I need you. Not as a subordinate, as an equal. As someone who can teach values that I cannot command into existence. John stared at her. His throat felt tight. Stand up, please. You do not need to do this. Yes, I do, Lysa said. Because this is not about rank or chain of command. This is about respect. You have earned mine completely. The question is whether you respect yourself enough to accept this responsibility. The words hit hard. Rajan had spent years hiding behind his guilt, using his past failure as a reason to stay small, to stay safe, to avoid the possibility of failing again. But Lysa was right. Doing nothing was also a choice, one that cost lives. He thought about the soldiers he had saved during the emergency, about the mechanics he had taught, about the difference his work made, not just in his shop, but everywhere his influence reached. Maybe he could not save everyone. Maybe he would make mistakes. But he could save some. He could teach others to care the way he cared. And that mattered. Stand up, Rajan said quietly. Please, Lysa stood. Waited, patient. I am still afraid, Rajan admitted. I am afraid of failing. Of being responsible for deaths I could have prevented. That fear does not just go away. No, it does not, Lysa agreed. I am afraid every day, but I act anyway. That is what courage actually is. Rajan took a deep breath. Then he stood and extended his hand. I accept your offer, not to return to war, but to honor the people I could not save by protecting those I still can. Lysa shook his hand firmly. Relief and gratitude mixed on her face. Welcome to the Defense Fleet, Chief Technical Advisor Kumar. That is a terrible title, Rajan said with a slight smile. Way too formal. You'll get used to it, Lysa said. She was smiling too. A genuine smile. We leave in 3 days. That gives you time to close your shop. Pack what you need. Say goodbye to this place. Rajan looked around his small workshop. He had built a life here. A safe life. A quiet life. But safety and quiet had their limits. Some responsibilities could not be avoided. I will be ready, he said. Over the next 3 days, Rajan prepared to leave. He sold most of his equipment, kept only his essential tools. The colonists threw him a farewell gathering. People thanked him, wished him well. He felt embarrassed by the attention, but also grateful. On the morning of departure, he stood outside his shop one last time. The sign above the door read, Kumar Repairs. Quality work always. He had been proud of that sign, proud of what he had built. But it was time to build something bigger. Lysa met him at the landing zone. She was back in her formal uniform, the Grand Admiral again. But when she looked at him, there was warmth in her eyes. Ready? She asked. No, Rajan said honestly. But I am coming anyway, Lysa smiled. Good answer, she gestured toward the military transport. Your quarters are prepared. Your workshop space is ready. My chief of staff will brief you on current maintenance protocols. But take your time settling in. This is a partnership, not a deployment. Rajan picked up his bag of tools. The same tools he had carried for years. The same tools that had saved so many lives. Thank you for seeing something in me I could not see in myself. You saw a broken soldier, Lysa said quietly. Not a legend, not a rank, just a person who needed help. That is exactly why we need you, Rajan, because you see people, not positions. They walked toward the transport together. Behind them, the colony continued its morning routine. Ahead of them waited the immense complexity of the defense fleet. Millions of soldiers, thousands of ships, an entire military force fighting to protect humanity, and somehow Rajan was going to be part of it. Not as a soldier, not as a warrior, but as someone who understood that the smallest details mattered most, that caring properly about simple things saved the most lives, that every person deserved equipment maintained with skill and love. The transport doors closed. The engines hummed to life. As they lifted off, Rajan looked down at his small repair shop one last time. Then he turned forward, toward whatever came next. He was afraid, but he was ready, and for the first time in years the guilt he carried felt lighter, because he was finally doing what he should have been doing all along, not hiding from responsibility, but embracing it fully. The stars waited above, and Rajan Kumar was heading toward them with purpose in his heart and tools in his hands, ready to serve, ready to teach, ready to save lives in the way only he could, by caring about every single detail as if everything depended on it, because sometimes everything did.